in a cold corner of a big American city, under the shadow of tall glass buildings. A young African maid named Zuri slept on a thin mat near the back door of a rich house. The night was sharp. Cars hissed on wet roads. Far above, the city lights shone like small, cold stars. But Zuri did not look at the buildings. She looked at the real stars, hiding behind city smoke. She wrapped her thin blanket tighter around her shoulders and whispered, "Ancestors, do you still see me? Or have you forgotten your child?" Her breath rose in the air like a small white cloud. Her hands were rough from scrubbing floors, washing dishes, cleaning bathrooms. The people inside the house never called her by name. They said, "Hey girl," or "You there." They gave her leftover food and told her to sleep outside, because the house is not for people like you. Yet every night, when the city grew quiet and the wind moved between the buildings, something strange happened. She heard drums. Not city music, not car horns, not police sirens. No, these were deep, steady, ancient drums like the ones from her grandmother's village in Africa. Dum. 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 The sound was low, like it came from the center of the earth. Sometimes she heard a flute too, thin like a bird's cry in the wind. No one else heard it, only Zuri. Her grandmother used to tell her, sitting by the fire in their old village, "Child, when the night drums call you far from home, it means the spirits are walking. It means your story is not finished." Zuri closed her eyes and remembered the African sky, wide and full of stars. She remembered the smell of dust after rain, the sound of frogs by the river, the warm voice of her grandmother, Mama Naya. Now all she smelled was smoke from city bars and the sour air from trash cans. But the drums still called. That same night, a black car with dark windows slowed down on the road nearby. Inside sat Kofi Adeyemi, a young billionaire from West Africa, owner of hotels and tech companies across the United States. His suit was smooth, his watch bright, his face calm, but his eyes were tired. He too heard something strange. Between the sounds of the city, he felt a beat, a rhythm. His fingers tapped his knee. A drummer from his childhood danced in his mind. A village square, a fire, stories under the moon. "Why am I thinking of that now?" he whispered. His driver did not answer. The car moved again. As they passed the big house, Kofi looked out and saw a small figure curled near the back door, under a thin blanket like a forgotten shadow. The drums inside his chest beat once, hard. He could have told the driver to stop. He did not yet. High above them, a silent shape circled in the dark sky, a great eagle spirit with eyes like burning coals. It watched the sleeping girl. It watched the passing car. The ancestors had already begun their work. Morning came with the harsh sound of a door slamming and a woman shouting, "Wake up, girl! You think this is a hotel?" Zuri jumped up. Her blanket was wet from the night mist. Her fingers were stiff from cold. Madame Rose, the owner of the house, stood above her with a cup of hot coffee in her hand and cold anger in her eyes. "Go inside! The bathroom is dirty again, and don't you dare touch my coffee! People like you should be thankful you are even here." Zuri bowed her head. "Yes, Ma. She worked all morning. The smell of strong cleaning chemicals burned her nose. The vacuum cleaner roared. Madame Rose's children threw toys on the floor, laughed at her accent and called her village girl." Zuri said nothing. She needed money. She needed to send something back home to her little brother. She needed to survive. But the drums did not let her rest. Even while she scrubbed the kitchen floor, she heard them, soft but clear. Dum, dum, dum. Her heart beat with them. Her feet moved in small steps, remembering old dances from her village. For a second, she almost smiled. Then Madame Rose saw her. "So you are dancing now? Is this a party?" She pushed a bucket toward Zuri. "Work faster, or you can go sleep on the street instead of my backyard." Zuri swallowed her tears. "Yes, Ma." Across the city, in a tall glass tower, Kofi sat in his large office, looking down at the streets far below. People moved like ants. Cars flowed like a river of steel and light. On the wall behind him hung a big painting of an African savanna, golden grass, a red sun, an old baobab tree. His mother had chosen it to remind him of home. But today it was something else that pulled his mind back, A sound, a rhythm. He heard it in the hum of the elevator, in the clicking of keyboards, in the faint music from someone's headphones. Dum, dum, dum. He stood and walked to the window, unable to sit still. His assistant, a sharp-tongued woman named Carla, looked up from her tablet. "Everything okay, Mr. Adeyemi?" He nodded slowly. "Did you hear something?" She frowned. "Sir?" "Never mind," he said. "Prepare the papers for the new hotel, and tell security to check the cameras in the underground garage. I feel something strange." He did not say it out loud, but his soul was restless. At night, alone in his penthouse, Kofi walked past a locked door. He always passed it. He never opened it when others were around. Far away, in the cold backyard, Zuri hugged herself and listened to the drums until sleep carried her away. The city thought she was just a maid. The spirits knew she was something more. The day everything changed started with rain. Not soft rain, but heavy, angry rain that hit the streets like stones. The sky was dark, and the wind pushed umbrellas inside out. People ran. Cars sprayed cold water on anyone too slow. Madame Rose was in a bad mood. "Business is slow! My guests are complaining!" "Guests are—" "You useless girl, why is the hallway still dirty?" she shouted. Her face was red, her gold necklace shook on her neck. Zuri had been working since dawn. Her back ached, her fingers were raw, she tried to move faster. "I am sorry, Ma. I will finish soon." "You are always sorry," Madame Rose snapped. "You know what, I'm tired of you. Sleep outside if you want, but today you will learn. No food for you tonight." Zuri lowered her eyes. "Yes, Ma." By evening, the rain grew colder. The back porch where Zuri usually slept was soaked. Water seeped through her blanket. There was nowhere dry to lie down. Shivering, she walked to the side of the house and sat on a piece of cardboard near the alley. Her clothes were wet. Her shoes made soft squishing sounds with every step. She hugged her knees and watched the cars pass. Across the street, city lights reflected in puddles like broken stars. She reached into her pocket and found a small piece of bread she had saved from breakfast. It was not much, but it was something. Then she saw a stray dog, a thin, shaking creature with ribs showing under its fur. It looked at her with hungry eyes. Slowly, Zuri broke her bread in half. "Here," she whispered, placing the bigger half on the ground. "You are cold too." The dog moved forward, sniffed, and began to eat. Its tail wagged weakly. At that exact moment, a long black car turned into the street. Inside, Kofi sat with his phone in his hand, reading numbers and reports that no longer filled the emptiness in his chest. "Sir," the driver said, "we must take the side road. The main street is flooded." The car rolled forward and splashed through a deep puddle. Water sprayed up and over the sidewalk. It splashed all over Zuri. She gasped. Cold water soaked her again. The small piece of bread left in her hand fell into the mud. The driver slowed down, looking in the mirror. "I think I hit someone with the water. Should I keep going?" he asked. "Stop!" Kofi said quickly. He looked out and saw her, the same small figure he had seen before, still no more than a shadow at the back of a rich house. But now he saw her face, tired eyes, wet hair, mud on her hands. And beside her, a dog eating the bread she had given away. The drums exploded in his ears. "Dum, dum, dum!" For a moment, all sounds of the city disappeared. No rain, no cars, just the ancient beat. He opened the car door and stepped out into the rain. Zuri froze. No rich person ever stepped into the water for her. "Are you okay?" he asked. His voice was deep, calm. She looked up slowly. She saw an expensive suit, a bright watch, warm brown eyes. I am fine, sir," she whispered. "You are shaking," he said. He took off his long coat and placed it over her shoulders. It smelled faintly of wood and clean soap. "I am sorry about the water," he said. "My driver should have been more careful." "It is not your fault," she said softly. "The rain falls on everyone." He smiled a little. "What is your name?" She hesitated. No one in this house cared about her name, but this man was different. "Zuri," she said at last. "Zuri," he repeated, as if tasting the word. "I am Kofi." He took a small card from his pocket and held it out. "If you ever need help, come to this address," he said. "Ask for me." She stared at the card. The letters and numbers shone under the streetlight. She did not take it. "I don't want trouble, sir. My madam will be angry if she sees me talking to you. Thank you for the coat." He wanted to insist, but something inside told him, "Do not push her. Destiny must walk at its own speed." He placed the card gently on the dry corner of her cardboard, nodded, and returned to the car. As the black car drove away, the dog barked once, sharply, as if calling to invisible watchers. On a rooftop across the street, the eagle spirit spread its wide wings. The ancestors smiled. The next morning, Zuri woke with Kofi's coat still around her shoulders. It was warm and heavy, like a piece of safety. When Madame Rose saw it, her eyes grew narrow. "Where did you steal that from?" she demanded. "I did not steal it, Ma," Zuri replied quickly. "A man gave it to me in the rain. His car—" "A man?" Madame's voice rose. "So now you stand on the street at night calling men, under my roof? You shameless girl!" "No, Ma, I would never—" "Enough!" Madame Rose shouted. "Take your things and go. I don't want you here. You can sleep in the street for real now. You think I can't find another maid?" Zuri froze. "Please, Ma, I have nowhere to go." "That is not my problem." Madame threw a small plastic bag at her. Inside were Zuri's few clothes, rolled badly, that was all. A cold wind blew through the open door, lifting a few dead leaves from the floor. Somewhere in the distance, a drum sounded once. Dum. Zuri picked up the bag and stepped out. The door slammed behind her. For a few minutes, she stood on the sidewalk, half in shock, half in fear. Then her eyes fell on the small white card Kofi had given her. It lay in her bag, safe and dry. She took a deep breath. "Ancestors, if this is your doing, walk with me," she whispered. The address led her to the center of the city, to a tall glass tower that looked like a mountain of light. People in suits moved in and out, speaking fast, holding phones, wearing good shoes. Zuri's clothes were simple. Her shoes were old, but she walked in. At the front desk, a man in a dark jacket looked up. "Yes, miss. Can I help you?" I am here to see Mr. Kofi Adeyemi," she said, trying to sound brave. "He told me to come if I needed help." The man looked her up and down, clearly doubtful. "Do you have an appointment?" he asked. "No, sir." He was about to send her away when the elevator doors opened, and Kofi stepped out with Carla beside him, reading something from her tablet. His eyes fell on Zuri. For a moment he thought she was a ghost from the rain. "Zuri?" he asked. The front desk man turned, surprised. "You know her, sir?" "Yes," Kofi said. "She is with me." He walked over. "What happened?" "I was sent away," she said quietly. "I have no place to go and no work." He nodded slowly. The drums in his chest were beating again. "Come," he said. "We will talk upstairs." In the elevator, Carla raised an eyebrow. "Sir, bringing strangers to the penthouse is not secure," she whispered. "She is not a stranger," he replied. "She is under my protection now." When they reached the top floor, Kofi led Zuri into his huge apartment. Windows looked over the whole city. Soft carpets covered the floor. A large kitchen shone with metal and glass. The air smelled of coffee and something sweet. Zuri's eyes widened. She had never seen such a place. "You can stay here for some time," Kofi said. "Help with cleaning, cooking, small things. I will pay you properly. You will have your own room. Inside the house, not outside." Tears filled her eyes. "Thank you, sir. May the ancestors bless you." "There is only one rule," he added, his face serious now. He pointed to a dark wooden door at the end of the hall. "You must never open that room, not for any reason. Do you understand?" Zuri nodded. "Yes, sir, I understand." But as she looked at the door, a cool wind seemed to brush her skin. Somewhere far away she heard a flute, and what is forbidden always calls to the heart. She did not know that behind that door lay the secret that could change both their lives. Days turned into weeks. In Kofi's penthouse, Zuri worked, but life was very different now. She had a soft bed. She had hot food. She slept inside with a roof over her head and warm air from the heater. She cleaned the glass tables, dusted the shelves, and sometimes watched the city lights at night from the big window. Kofi was always busy, moving from meetings to calls. But sometimes, late in the evening, they would drink tea together at the kitchen counter. He listened as she spoke of her village, of red soil and long, dry seasons, of nights when the whole community gathered to tell stories under the stars. She listened as he spoke of building his company from nothing, of studying by candlelight as a boy, of the weight of success on his shoulders. The drums still sounded for both of them, usually when they sat together in silence. But the house was not peaceful. Kofi's cousin, Tunde, visited often. He wore expensive clothes and fake smiles. He wanted more power in the company, more money, more control. One evening, Tunde saw Zuri in the hallway. His eyes traveled over her, full of pride and hunger. "So this is the new maid," he said. "You brought the village into the sky, cousin." "Show respect," Kofi said calmly. "She is under my protection." "Of course," Tunde said, but his eyes showed something else. He began to plan. Meanwhile, the door at the end of the hall called to Zuri. Sometimes, when she passed it, she felt a warm breath of air from under it, like air from a fire. Sometimes she smelled smoke and herbs. Once, in the middle of the night, she heard a drum inside that room, slow and steady. Dum. 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 One afternoon, when Kofi was at a meeting and Carla had gone home, the apartment grew strangely quiet. The wind outside pushed against the windows. Clouds gathered, dark and heavy. Zuri finished her work in the kitchen and walked down the hall. Her feet stopped in front of the forbidden door. Her heart beat fast. "Do not open it," she whispered to herself. But her hand lifted anyway. The door was not locked. It opened with a soft sound. Inside, the air was thick and warm. Candles burned in clay holders. On the floor lay a woven mat with cowrie shells. On the wall hung wooden masks and an old cloth painted with an eagle flying over a river. At the center stood a small table with a bowl of water, a calabash of palm wine, and a photograph of an old man with kind eyes. Zuri stepped in slowly. The drums grew louder. Dum! 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 She felt as if she had walked back home, into her grandmother's hut. Tears rose in her eyes. On the table lay a folded paper. She did not want to read it, but the wind from the half-open window moved it, showing her first line. It was a letter from an elder in Kofi's home village. It spoke of a family curse. "Wealth without true love will bring emptiness and ruin," it said. "Only when a rich son takes as wife a woman of humble heart, chosen by the ancestors, will the eagle rest and the curse be broken." Zuri's hands shook. "I should not be here," she whispered. She turned to leave, and found Tunde at the door, smiling coldly. "Well, well," he said, "our little maid has long fingers." He walked inside, took a gold bracelet from a bowl near the shrine, and slipped it into the pocket of her apron. "What are you doing?" she asked, eyes wide. "You will see," he whispered. That night, as thunder rolled over the city and rain struck the windows like stones, Kofi returned. Tunde was waiting. "Cousin," he said loudly, "your maid has stolen from the shrine. The cameras will show it." Zuri's heart stopped. Lightning flashed outside, painting the room white for a second. The drums roared. The night of truth had arrived. The storm outside grew worse. Thunder crashed like giant drums in the sky. Lightning flashed again and again, turning the glass walls of the penthouse into bright mirrors. The city below was a blur of lights and rain. Inside, tension was thick. Tunde stood with his arms crossed. Zuri stood with her hands shaking. Kofi's face was hard to read. "You know the rules about the shrine," Tunde said. "No one enters without respect. And now your maid has not only entered, she has stolen from it." "I did not steal anything," Zuri said, her voice trembling. "I only opened the door. I am sorry. But I took nothing." "Lies!" Tunde spat. He pointed at her pocket. "Search her!" Carla, who had come back because of the storm, stood by the wall, unsure what to do. "Zuri," Kofi said softly, "may I check your pocket?" her eyes filled with tears. "Yes, sir." He reached in and pulled out the gold bracelet Tunde had hidden. The room went quiet. "See!" Tunde shouted. "She is a thief! Send her away! Call the police! People like her cannot be trusted!" Rain beat on the windows like 1,000 fingers. Zuri dropped to her knees. "Please, sir! I did not take it!" "I don't know how it came to my pocket. I know the shrine is sacred. I would never—" "Enough!" Tunde shouted. "You defend her more than your own blood cousin?" Kofi closed his eyes for a moment. In that silence, he heard the drums again. Not far now. Very close. Dum, dum, dum. Then he heard his father's voice in his memory, speaking by the fire in their old village. "When you do not know who is right and who is wrong, listen not to words, but to hearts. Money lies. Fear lies. But the spirit of a person never lies." He opened his eyes and turned to Carla. "Bring the building security," he said. "I want all camera footage from today. Every hall, every room, now." Tunde's smile faded a little. Minutes later, security guards arrived with a tablet. They played the video from the hallway outside the shrine. Everyone watched. They saw Zuri walk to the door, hesitate, and enter. Later, they saw Tunde look around, then slip into the shrine room alone. They watched him take the gold bracelet and push it into Zuri's apron pocket. The truth was clear. Carla gasped. The guards looked away, uncomfortable. You see, it was just a joke," Tunde began, sweat on his forehead. "I wanted to test her, to see if—" "Enough," Kofi said quietly. The drums in his chest were no longer confused. They were strong, steady. "You tried to destroy an innocent person to protect your greed," he said. "From this day you are removed from all company positions. Security will escort you out. You are no longer welcome in my home." Tunde stared at him in disbelief. "You would choose a maid over your own cousin?" "I choose truth over lies," Kofi said. "I choose justice over blood that has no honor." Tunde shouted something angry, but the thunder swallowed his words. The guards took him away. Silence fell. Only the sound of rain remained. Kofi turned to Zuri, still kneeling on the floor. "I am sorry," he said softly. "I failed to trust you when you needed me most." She shook her head. "You looked for the truth. That is more than most would do." A sudden flash of lightning lit up the shrine room down the hall. They all turned. For a brief moment, they saw something impossible. Through the open door, above the shrine table, a great eagle of light formed in the air, wings spread wide. Its eyes shone like fire. Its beak opened, but no sound came. Only the deep, steady beat of the drums. Dum, dum, dum! Then the light faded. Tears ran down Zuri's cheeks. Her heart felt open, raw. "What was that?" Carla whispered. "It was our ancestors," Kofi said quietly. "Watching." He walked toward Zuri and slowly reached out his hand. "You came into my life with nothing," he said. "But you gave bread to a hungry dog in the rain. You honored the shrine even when you broke the rule. You stayed humble when you could have shouted. The elders wrote of a woman with a heart like yours." He took a deep breath. "Zuri," he said, "I am a rich man with an empty house. I do not want a servant, I want a partner. Will you walk beside me as my wife? Not as someone beneath me, but as someone chosen for me." Her breath caught. "I am only a poor maid," she whispered. "I slept outside on the ground." "And yet," he said, "you are richer in spirit than many people I know." She closed her eyes. In her mind, she saw Mama Nia by the village fire, smiling. She heard the night frogs by the river. She smelled wood smoke and dust and rain. "My child," her grandmother's voice seemed to say, "when love comes with respect, don't run from it. Your suffering was not a waste, it was a path." Zuri opened her eyes. "Yes," she said, voice shaking but strong. "I will walk with you." Outside, the thunder rolled one last time, softer now, like drums at the end of a dance. In the months that followed, Kofi and Zuri were married in a park at the heart of the city. Elders came from their home villages. Drummers played under tall trees. Children ran between the legs of guests. The city skyline stood behind them like a mountain of glass. Zuri wore a dress that mixed African cloth with simple white fabric. Kofi wore a clean suit with a woven sash from his homeland. They spoke vows not only to each other, but also to the ancestors. After their marriage, they used Kofi's wealth to open shelters called House of Warm Nights, places where no maid, no worker, no woman without a home would ever have to sleep outside in the cold again. Zuri visited the shelters often, sitting with the women, listening to their stories. She never forgot the taste of cold rain or the pain of hard ground. The moral of their story spread far. Riches mean nothing if your heart is poor. The spirit of a humble person is more powerful than gold. No one is too small for destiny, and no suffering is wasted when it grows your heart. The ancestors watch, not the size of your house, but the size of your kindness. And on many nights when the city grew quiet and the wind moved between the buildings, the sound of distant drums could still be heard, blessing the maid who once slept outside and the billionaire who chose to listen to his spirit.